Today on the Eye of Power podcast, it's a special episode, episode number 200. And I wanted to do something a little different than normal. And as I kind of thought about it, I'm like, you know what I want to do? I want to share the treasure that I have with my team members with the world. And so the format's a little different with four of us participating. And I just want you to get to know a little bit about the team at Mentor Machine Incorporated and what we've been doing, what we are doing, and what we plan on doing in the world today as it relates to the mission of the Mentor Machine, which is really to help people feel more fulfilled in the world. We call it Alvea. So what we're trying to do is create a machine, a system that moves and operates that just cranks out more and more Alvea, that fulfillment that comes through mastery, you get good at something in a way that contributes to a shared mission and in a way that's appreciated and seen and appreciated by other people. So mastery plus contribution plus visibility equals Alvea. And so that's what we're trying to make with the Mentor Machine protocol. So welcome aboard the Mentor Machine team, Greg, Vivek, and Giselle. Welcome to the Eye of Power podcast. I'm your host, Tom Dardick. But this podcast is not about me. It's about you and your power. It's time to claim yours. So this is a special episode of the Eye of Power because it's episode number 200. And I wanted to do something a little different. One of the things I don't think I generally do is give my audience a look more into the workings of our business and our life. And I thought, well, what better way than to have the team on board here and get to know the team a little bit better, get to see, what we're all passionate about, where we come from, and what we're really looking to do in the world together. So that's what we'll jump into today. The Eye of Power is about how we expand our power and how we increase our agency in the world. So that's what we're all starting with. We all want to feel fulfilled, feel like we're seen and heard and valued and appreciated. That's what we're trying to do with our organizations that we're looking to help and the individuals that are the lifeblood of every single organization. So that's what Mentor Machine is about. That's what Eye of Power is about. So I'm going to introduce, just in turn, coming from originally from Brazil, but now in the Netherlands, is Giselle Soares. Did I pronounce the last name right? Soares, is that right?
Soares.
Soares. Okay,
Yeah.
see how we are here? Soares. Okay, great. I just call her Giselle. That's why I know. Pretty soon it's going to be G, but we have another G, so it can't be G. Giselle's in the Netherlands, and then we have Greg Dardick. You might recognize the name because Greg and I are brothers. I'm the eldest of four boys. Greg is number three, and so we'll get to know Greg in a minute. And then we also have Vivek Nigam. Is that the right pronunciation of Nigam?
It's Nigam.
Nigam. Okay, well, see, there you go. I'm learning about the team even more. I just call him Vivek. Is Vivek right? Is Vivek right?
and oddly enough, a lot of people just call me V, which is funny. Yeah.
All right. So it's Greg and Vivek are in Connecticut. And let's kind of go there for a second because I kind of want to start with how you guys got together because that's one of the key elements that brought the four of us together is the fact is your relationship. So let's just kind of start there with your origin story, what you guys were doing, how you met, why you decided that it was a good idea to hitch your wagons together.
Vic and I were working at the Hartford together. I was
The
responsible.
Hartford Group, which is big insurance company.
Yep. And I was responsible for managing teams of software developers, and Vivek was a enterprise architect. And we had a chance to work together. And as soon as we started working together, we hit it off. How we looked at problems, how we looked at people to get problems done were very similar. We always looking for really good solutions and practical solutions and kind of pushing the boundaries a little bit. But our biggest passion really was around how do we get people involved? How do we get the most out of people? How do we achieve things with speed, quality, and purpose? And we both had a passion for entrepreneurship as well. And so early on, we're like, someday you and I are going to work together. I remember like the first day you said that to me.
That's right.
So we knew we had a very similar outlook on life. We had very similar beliefs in terms of how to run teams, how to look at business problems, and we just hit it off. Knew right away that we'd be working together someday again.
Yep. Yeah, and fast forward a few years later, we both went on to some different journeys, and Greg called me one day, said, "Hey, let's catch up and let's go have lunch," and said, "Hey, this is what I'm working on." And I said, "Wait a minute, this is what I'm working on," and we just saw the synergy. So this is and that led us here. I mean, it was pretty obvious at that point that this makes sense to pull everything together. Yeah.
Let's dive in a little bit into that phase of it,
Mhm.
Vivek, because you had Be Remote as a company
Mhm.
and the ReTeam product, which is an integral part of what we offer with the Mentor Machine. So I want to
Yeah,
talk a little bit about that right now.
sure.
How did you come up with Be Remote
Yeah.
and ReTeam, and what was the genesis of that idea?
Yeah, so if you can hear me, Mia, let me tell you a little story, and this is really the genesis, and it's kind of very personal to me. So, growing up, my father was an immigrant, really smart guy, technical person, and what I remember as a kid is just I remember the conversations in the kitchen between my mom and dad, and I remember, what they were. I mean, they didn't include me, but I knew what they were talking about. It was my father had gotten passed up for promotion yet again. Right? And I remember the pain and the disappointment in his voice. I was just a kid at the time, but you could hear it. You hear your parents talking. Fast forward to when I was a teenager, I remember my dad told me, listen, when you start working, I want you to go out with your friends and go out and have a beer with me, go out after work and spend the time. He said that stuff I never did and held me back. And he thought that's what was missing. So when I finally started working, I said, okay, let me find people who reminded me of my dad. They
Hmm.
were really good workers, but kind of felt not like they belonged. They felt a little bit, something was missing, right? So they didn't feel really comfortable in the environment. Now I would work with them one on one and give them some assignments and try to see if we could grow them. What I found is over the years, every time I tried it, 100% of the time, when they had an opportunity, they were out of the park, absolutely amazing. And so then I started thinking, there's something here. There's something that we're missing by not being able to harness the people on the team that maybe are quiet, that don't have that opportunity. There's great talent there. And so fast forward, I started to look at the methodologies, did a lot of research over many, many years, and then started building a foundation. So ReTeam was really designed to improve team participation, find the ways to find the people that are quiet, give them the opportunity, make them feel their value. We've had some great success doing that. So
One
then,
just a
yeah,
quick comment there. One of the things I often say is, have you ever been in a meeting where 20% of the people take up 80% of the bandwidth?
exactly,
And every
exactly.
single time I
Every
mention
single
that,
time. You
every
know,
single time people say, what meeting isn't like that?
what I mean, exactly. And there's actually a psychological term for that for organizational behavior. It's called dominance of the few, and very obvious term, right? It is something that is more prevalent, and it's probably ubiquitous. Like every meeting is exactly the same way.
Well, and the thing that really, taking that one step forward, is that means that if you don't do anything about it,
Hmm.
that means 80% of your people feel like they're underrepresented or underheard
Right.
or undervalued in some way. They feel marginalized at least in some way on a regular
Mhm.
basis.
That's exactly right. And they never get the opportunity. It was an interesting story. A woman I worked for at one of the insurance companies, she had been at the company for 35 years. But there was another woman who was still a developer, had started the same week as this person. My boss was a VP, and this other person was still a developer 35 years later. And so why is that? And so we looked at that and said, well, really, it had a lot to do with opportunity. Some cases it had to do with mentorship, had to do with somebody saying, "You're coming with me. Let me show you how this is done." That to me also was a really important factor to say, if you hold somebody's hand, if you show them a little bit of way, if you can coach them a little bit, guess what they can do? That exponentially multiplies over the years. So, I mean, you look at that use case, these both highly talented, both highly valuable to the company, started in the same week. One's a VP, one's still at a technical role.
Mentorship is crucial to
100%.
fully express ourselves. And I also think it's perfectly fine to find your passion, your niche, and if
Hmm.
development is your thing, then
100%. Yeah.
that's what you should do. And I don't think there's anything wrong with being in a spot for decades and just loving it. If that's fulfilling to you, then that's where you
Mhm.
belong, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to that point, I had somebody reporting to me years ago. I used to talk to my people about the career plans. I said, "What do you want to do? Do you want to be CEO someday or CFO or something?" And he paused. He said, "Well, none of those. I want,
Hell to
I
the
want,
no.
I want to be technical. I want to do my thing. I want to play with technology. Yeah, yeah, and great. So let's grow you in that way." Yeah.
One other interesting thing, you talk about the impacts of childhood in terms of seeing your dad. For
Mhm.
me and Tom, I think you share something similar. One of the things my dad taught me at an early age, and I think something that has really impacted some of my character, is the fact that you can learn from everybody in this world, and that
Mhm.
you need to treat everybody with respect and dignity. And that helps drive to look at what does everybody have that's their unique talents and what makes them special. And you look at that, we talk about fulfillment, we talk about the things. I think that's one of the things within me and Tom that drive us, is that
Mhm.
desire to see people really become their best selves, for them to share their unique talents and their unique gifts in the world. And as you look at
100%.
people who are sitting there not being, not necessarily get a chance to shine in those things, our desire to help grow those people, it's been inherent. It's kind of funny to me to look at some of the things that have been shaped from our childhood. Is
I want
interesting.
to tell a quick story along those lines, Greg, because it has shaped my view, and it's something I'll never forget. Our father was one of the younger managers of a plant in the company TRW, which has been defunct for quite some time, but was at the time in the top 100 companies in the world. And it was a diversified global corporation. The plant that he was managing made compressor blades for jet engines, and 1,400 people in the plant, so it was a pretty sizable operation. He was 37 years old when he was made manager of that plant, youngest in TRW's history. Big long story there, but he used to just go, what he did, and the way the plant worked was you had the plant where all the action happened, where you actually made. And for those that don't know, a compressor blade is very, very high strength, high alloy, tungsten steel alloy that is extremely, extremely tight tolerance machining.
Mhm.
So the process of making them at scale is exacting. And so the factory was sort of near the railway line along Cameron Street in Harrisburg, and then there was an office building where all the engineers and designers and managers were in that office building, and it was sort of like the white and blue collar, never the twain shall meet kind of culture, is
Mhm.
what it was. And our dad didn't really spend his time in the admin building. He spent most of his time in the factory,
Beautiful.
walking the floor, talking to the people. He said, I don't learn anything up in all the action is here. Anybody who knows anything about what we're doing is in the factory. Then so he went every day talking to all the people on the machines, the people that are working the machines, the foreman, and he was asking, how's it going? What would you change if you could, on a regular basis? So I'm
Mhm.
saying all that because for at least 2 decades afterwards, so he left there in 79. So we're talking about a long time ago. So I'm going to say from till about 2000, if somebody heard my last name in the central Pennsylvania area, there was a pretty good chance that they said, "Oh, you're related to Steve Dardick." And I
Mhm.
said, "Yeah, that's my dad." And there's a good chance that if they worked at TRW, they knew him and loved him. They appreciated so much the fact that the boss, that was sort of way up there in their eyes, cared enough about them to want to know what they thought. And they never forgot that, ever. That's why it got so cemented in me, because I can't, I mean, it would happen all the time where people would say, "Oh, yeah, I love your dad. Your dad was
Awesome.
awesome. It was way better when he was here." That kind of thing. Long
You know,
story, but I think it's an important lesson. So
yeah,
keep going on that track, and I want to get you driven into the point where Giselle comes into the picture.
yeah, 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 and we should totally talk about that. You know, it was interesting as you're talking about that. I remembered a situation going back. It's not that many years ago. Where I'm walking again with my boss, and we're basically executives in this company, right? In this large company, and I stopped to talk to a friend of mine who happened to be part of the cleaning crew, and he was dressed in those outfits. And I said, Hang on, I just have to say hi." And I talked to him and say, "How's your daughter?" Like we're just talking. I mean, it's a friend of mine. I just remember out of the corner of my eye how uncomfortable she was. That, you know, this it was a very unusual thing. Why are you dressed up like this? Talking to him dressed up like that. And it really struck me that, you know, in the 2020s that this would still happen, right? So, but I think that that type of behavior is deep-seated. So your dad's experience maybe way ahead of his time, but so highly impactful.
It's just recognizing what Greg was saying, that
Yeah,
every person is an end in of themselves.
100%. Yeah.
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 So let's keep going with your story and get Giselle into the picture here. So you formed
Yeah.
the company Be Remote
Yep.
about when?
So in 2020,
Okay.
so we actually started the foundation pre-pandemic, and then pandemic happened, and said, "Well, we're on a good roll here. Let's keep going." And Giselle, I think, came on about a year later, maybe. I mean, we've been together for some time, working together. Boy, I've learned so much from Giselle. We actually have some of the tools that we use, and we exercise them ourselves. We're, you know, just trying to get to know each other. I like to tell a fun story about our favorite TV shows where Giselle and I had a really good laugh about this. We're just trying to get to know each other. We're different generations. We're from different backgrounds, right? And work together very well. I asked, well, what's your favorite TV show? And Giselle, what did you say? You
The
remember?
the 100, yeah.
The 100, right?
The
Yeah.
100. I like that show. I used to watch that show.
And I remember I said, "Oh yeah, the X-Files," and the conversation back and forth was, I said, "Well, Giselle, I've never heard of the 100, but maybe I need to go take a look at it." And she said, "Oh, I've never heard of the X-Files." And it's just this dichotomy of how do we work so well together? But guess what? There's all these different things that we don't know about each other. Just opened up an opportunity of let me learn more about you. Let me learn more about each other. And so since then, I've been on Duolingo learning Portuguese. I'll say a few things in Portuguese once in a while to Giselle, and she'll correct me. I say, no, no, this is how it's said, this is how it's pronounced. So, just an amazing relationship. I've watched Giselle grow from just an initial role that we had to really being a really core part of the company, helping with facilitation, understanding what people do. Really thrilled to have had the opportunity to work together. Yeah,
So
love to.
Giselle, what is the path from that point? Like what were you doing? What brought you in? What keeps got you excited? What keeps you coming into the picture on a regular basis? That kind of thing. Let's hear about you.
Yeah, so I mean, my whole life I've worked as an English teacher in Brazil. I taught little kids. And then I thought it was time to have a change of careers. You know, I was originally hired to work at Be Remote as a salesperson.
Mhm.
And soon I found out that that's not really what I liked. But I'm not a shy person, but I need to be comfortable in a space to really talk and speak my mind. And that has always been the case since I started working here. Every idea that I have, or every thought I had, I was always comfortable to share. And so I got to learn so much because I just did new things. Every day at work, I was like, I think this needs to be done. Do I know how to do this? No, I don't, but I could learn. And so, yeah, I navigated a lot in different parts of the company. It's been amazing so far. I'm very happy that this change of career ended up working well for me, and that what we sell, like what we want to have for our clients is really what we have in our company. Like it's been like this since day one, and I don't know, it just makes me really proud.
Wow, that's very gratifying to hear. And the one thing we've never been in the same physical space. You've been either in Brazil or Netherlands as long as we've been intersecting. I hope to be a place where we can have a company retreat either in Brazil or in Netherlands at some point. And that'd
Let's
be
do it.
phenomenal. But one thing I have seen is nearly everything you do. I'm going to say not nearly, I'm going to say everything I've seen you do has been impressive.
Yeah.
So you start as an English teacher. Sounds like, okay, you've got language, but learning languages and understanding different people is not a first order kind of skill. it's pretty advanced, and you bring so much. I mean, you can do design, and you interview well, and you script things out well, and you interface with people so well. You got all these different things, and it seems like everything you do to a really great degree. And I'm just wondering, how did it happen like that? Are you just sort of a person that's good at everything you do, or how do you view that?
It's funny that you say that because I think the opposite. Yeah, I mean, right now I'm working on the new logos for the company, and then the whole time I was like, oh, I have no idea what I'm doing. This looks terrible, and I just, yeah, I don't know. I just am very. Oh, I have no idea how to say this in English. It's exigent. Oh, demanding. With myself. So. Yeah, I think I just irritate myself to the point of succeeding.
I think that's a great answer. I mean, basically, what I understand you to say there, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you just set a high standard for yourself.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, it's easy for people to say, well, this is the best I can do, or here's what it is. I have an hour, I'm going to do it. Here's what I did in an hour. Here's what I can do for you. And it's what I hear you saying there is, no, you say, here's the best I can possibly do it.
Yeah, that's what I like to believe.
Yeah, well,
You know,
that's no small thing.
Yeah, the other thing I really love working with Giselle is that I think she gets that out of the people she's working around too, in terms of questions, in terms of the eagerness and working together towards a problem. I so love working with Giselle. She definitely makes me better.
and what I'll say is it's been really interesting to watch the journey. And we brought her on to do SDR type of work, right? Sales type of work. And look, I think she sells herself short. I think she was very good at that, and endeared herself to people very quickly. But watching her grow and seeing where the strengths are, seeing where her interests were, we're fortunate we had the opportunity to let her explore it. I love where she's going and growing every day, and I think she's a critical part of everything that we do. So.
That's a great tee up for the next phase I want to explore together, which is from here, where are we going? What are we looking forward to? What do we built, and how do we apply it in the world to help? And we're still in iteration. We've been running some pilots here and there, and we've been in the laboratory perfecting and constantly improving the value equation that we provide. We've already heard in all of our stories, we've heard some of the elements, right? Treating people as ends in of themselves, having personal standards that matter to you, and make something that you feel like you're being able to fully express yourself. This is what we want people to do in general. They're not going to do it by themselves, are they? We all sort of need help.
I'm a big believer in sense of belonging, right? And where does sense of belonging come from? There's so many different factors, but let's just hit on a couple of them. Feeling valued and feeling fulfilled, right? And I think those two things are very tightly connected. My experience, what we find is people get so busy with fulfilling the need that someone's got, a task that someone gave them, just checking the box, doing what they need to do.
The tyranny of the to-do list is what I
That's
call
such a great term. And Tom, I couldn't think of that. I know I was hoping you would chime in with that. Yes, tyranny of the to-do list.
it.
That they forget that there's a part of this, in order for them to truly provide the greatest value, they need to have some personal fulfillment. From my perspective, they also need to help the team and themselves, their peers, also achieve some of that fulfillment. So without some guidance and some coaching, that is very difficult to achieve. So I'm very passionate about what we're doing here. I think we can provide them that path. We can provide them the introspection. We've seen some results already. And so I'm very optimistic about the impact that we can have on broad scales.
Yeah, I mean, I love the fact that the system that we're building is something that allows people to connect and organizations to connect in meaningful ways that align around the purpose of the organization. So people
Mhm.
align their skills, how they're growing to the purpose of why you're working together, to the purpose of what's going on, how they're serving their customers and how they're serving the mission of the organization. And it's that both that inward and outward look that you need to have. You need to be working on yourself and how what you're doing, but also understand how you relate to the people around you. How can I connect with them? How do they grow? How do we grow together? And with a system that really kind of walks you through that in terms of right ideating and finding areas to leverage and maximize your skills and your strengths and ways you want to grow, along with helping others do that. By being both a better mentor and a coach to others, as well as yourself being open to mentorship and open to feedback and open to ways to grow.
One of the things that I'm thinking here is it really is the marriage between what we were doing previously versus what our partnership did it, where we sort of took the already successful and working ReTeam application, which addresses the ways that people are without help are going to be marginalized, or they're especially if they're not physically in the same place, but even if they are, it provides the tools that facilitates communication to add that, to take that and then add the sort of curriculum, quote unquote. We don't really teach or train in the traditional way that you might picture it. It is related to those things, but what we really do is prompt people to take new and different actions that they commit to, and then mutually are held accountable for those things through the system. And we just fold that into the rhythm of whatever the workplace is. So it's not something you're going to go do this one time. It's something you do as a matter of course going forward together. And so it folds into that whole thing. And I think that's some of the special sauce. And to be able to do that, it was really the marriage between what we came up with the Eye of Power and what the ReTeam application as a force multiplier allows to happen. That's sort of the genesis of what these guys are describing in terms of what people can do.
Yeah, and through ReTeam, we've been able to, and Giselle does mostly the heavy lifting there, engaging the teams. It's wild to watch people start off and start to get to know each other and have conversations about, hey, did you know so and so rides a motorcycle? I don't know. I've worked with them for 20 years. I never knew that, right? So you find little tidbits like that, and observing those and watching the people endear themselves to each other is just very fascinating.
The experience of people in the workplace, I think it's an evolving thing. I think this is something that, while elements have always been and always will be, such as what I call the transactional relationship in the workplace, which, to describe it quickly, is you have these skills. These skills are worth this much money in the marketplace compared to everybody else who has a similar bucket of skills. We give you that money, you give us those skills, and that's the totality of our contract and our relationship. And as long as that's solid, then nothing else really matters. And that's the prism through which we evaluate all value. And I think that's expanding. It's never been the complete picture, but it's been a dominant picture in the world of work to try to smooth through, let's call it, the human variability and the human foibles that enter in, so that we don't have the personality clashes or the differing values matter so much. We can just sort of distill it down to the work proposition, just deal with that and keep it clean, was the idea of why it was that way. And that's never really been the totality of the picture. But as time goes on, as we have more automation that can do anything that can be done by following rules is going to be done by automation more and more and more. And so what's the human equation? The human equation relates to our experiences and our relationships. And so as we have automation take over more and more and more, the experiences and the relationships are going to continue to rise in value and in emphasis as to why we do what we do, why we value being part of this team or having this person part of this team. And so leadership, more and more and more, are going to have to incorporate that element into their calculus on their daily decision making. So I think that's the landscape in which all leaders are currently navigating. And what we're trying to do is help them with that transition.
For sure.
How does that little diatribe land with all you guys?
Yeah, and I'll say that the research shows, and this goes back many years, even in the age of now technology, and we're starting to get more and more challenged, especially with AI coming in, right? Friendships at work are so critical to the success of the team. And that is something that if you look at a variety of research, and Dr. Lucy Gilson's a good friend of ours. She's been writing about this for many years, and you'll see some of her research. She talks about the effects of friendships at work and productivity on satisfaction, on fulfillment, and it's really about sense of belonging, right? So that factor, that human interaction factor, is something that it does feel like we're losing a little bit, right? With the in the age of technology, in the age of social media, where everyone is a persona versus a real person,
Mm.
and so we're starting to lose a little bit of that. But I think people need that, right? And that's a value that really need to stress. And leaders that we talk to, the ones that recognize it, they're very concerned, right, about these type of things. Also reminds me of a quote from Neil deGrasse Tyson. He said he thinks AI is great. What's going to happen is this proliferation of AI, as you watch things, you don't know what's real, what's not. He said eventually what's going to happen is people are going to stop being able to understand what they're seeing, if this is real or not. And guess what they're going to do? They're going to go outside and they're going to start talking to their neighbors again. So he thought that was a really good thing. Which actually, I mean, that human connection, 100% agree. In the workplace, I think is critical.
Well,
And I think
we
that
have a
tag on
hybrid and remote workplace, and that
Mm,
stresses all of this. Greg, were
100%.
you about
Yeah.
to say something there?
Yeah, I was just going to tag on to a little bit about, the friends and the others. Underlying all those things is, and we've known this for how many years, about trust that's needed in teams, your
Mm,
ability to get space and trust around that. And it's funny
mm,
because it's such a balancing act, right? Because you want to be trusted and you want to be able to feel and you want to be able to do things, be able to experiment and have fun, but there's also accountability. And there's a very difficult balancing act that we have to do around all of these things. And that's one of the big challenges. And the more that we build our teams and grow together, easier it is to trust and to build all that around that. So I feel like there's another element that we're bringing to this equation that I think has been missed in corporate culture for a while.
In your experience at the Hartford, what was your observation about that dynamic at scale? Because that's really one of the things we're really trying to do. Because in a given team, if I'm basically a good person that cares about people as a manager or a leader, I can kind of affect that in the circle around me. And I think that happens in a lot of places. I see that fairly commonly. But what's hard to do is scale it, right? Is to
mm,
get it so that when you
Yeah.
have hundreds or thousands of people in the organization, to get it so that it's just the normative part of the culture. So I want to just kind of build on. We're not trying to throw Hartford under the bus here, but you had a lot of years experience there, and that was a large scale operation. So I want to kind of pick your brain about how it was done well or not well in your view at scale.
Yeah, I mean, like all organizations are going to ebb and flow. You have new management come in, you have new philosophies, you have new things coming in. I would say when you look at the challenges of large organizations, is you have a lot of competing needs and things that are out there. You have a lot of differing agendas. You have a lot of different things that are going on. When you're not really aligned in the central area and really core and mission of what the company is about, it allows for more difficulties among areas, departments, business functions, et cetera, to clash and not be in alignment. That generally creates a lot of those issues. And beyond that, I mean, there's just realities that business has to choose. I mean, sometimes they're getting out of an aspect of a business that's difficult. That's a big impact on people who have worked there. And being able to do that in thoughtful, good, honest ways is very difficult. And I'll say the Hartford, I've seen some really good examples that I've learned from in my management experience of that, and I've seen some very bad examples. I'm sure I'd find that at most companies anywhere that you go to. And so the strength of that is building those teams, management teams that have that alignment and pushing together.
Very well said. The what I also find is that these large companies, the way they try to understand people is through surveys, and the surveys really don't work. They design those surveys to serve their company's needs, right? You get a company that says we want to make sure that we have high employee satisfaction scores, so they'll design the survey in certain ways and force people to respond to the surveys, et cetera, right? So then there's always that pressure. It is interesting, some of the stuff that we've learned working with smaller companies, larger companies. When you ask people, when you can ask them individually a different question, you will find out what's valuable to the person, and then you can grow the person. And that's something difficult to do in a large organization. You have to separate it down into small groups and have the small groups do that. But what we find is large organizations, they try to do these things. They're doing it uniformly across the organization is difficult. But you start in a smaller pod and get that working. I'd say in our own organization, we asked a question a few years ago. Asked everybody, what does it mean for you to feel a sense of belonging, feel like you belong? And just two of the responses, I thought two people work very closely together too. One person said, when my manager recognizes me publicly in front of the team, that really means a lot to me. And that really makes me feel like I'm valued, I'm here. And the other person said, when I call somebody on my team and they pick up the phone, it seems like such a small thing. Like we're all very busy. But two little comments, and you wouldn't notice those two behaviors from just working with these two people together. High quality people did great work. It just once you ask that question, it's interesting to get an honest answer. Like, to Greg's point, you need to build some trust there to get that answer. But when you get that answer, how powerful is that?
People are people. That's one of the things that it's one of those dichotomies that we all have to navigate, which is we're so much more alike than we are different.
Mhm.
But the magic of life is actually in the differences too. So,
I 100% agree. Yeah.
so we're all so everybody's I use snow, right? Everybody's snow. And you look out at snow and snow is snow, but then every single individual snowflake is different than every other snowflake. So we're all snow and we're all snowflakes. I was talking to somebody else in an interview recently, and we were talking about lions and zebras, and and specifically zebras as distinct from horses. People try to domesticate zebras. Zebras, they to our eye, a zebra looks like a zebra. All the stripes on zebras are individual patterns, just like a fingerprint, right? So I'm thinking from a zebra's perspective, all zebras look very, very different from one another. Like it
Yeah.
looks like a zebra to us, but to a zebra, that's like, oh, well, that's Ralph. That's Jane, obviously. And and then horses we can domesticate and ride. We can't domesticate zebras, and I'm wondering, maybe it's because of that differentiation that somehow makes the mentality, if you will, quote unquote, of a zebra untamable or undifferent, so much different than the sense of belonging of a horse. So I'm thinking maybe there's this zebra horse thing that we can
Maybe
somehow
there's something
use.
there.
But it's a dynamic that we have to navigate in our relationships all the time because we want to be connected to people. We want to feel like we know each other. We want to feel seen and we want to belong, like you were just pointing to, Vivek. And that has to be nourished. We have to feel, especially in hybrid and remote circumstances, you have an organization with 10 or 100 offices and we're all part of the same thing, but it's way different here in Dunder Mifflin Scranton versus Dunder Mifflin Stanford,
Yeah.
two completely different things. And so leaders have to be able to fuel both the universality as well
Yeah.
as the uniqueness of the individual.
Yeah. And it's interesting, you were talking about technology, how it's hindering, human connections in many ways. But what we found is technology really does, when used correctly, can enable that human connection. And just an example of the four of us here, we don't spend a lot of time together in person. And Giselle and I have been working together, it feels like forever now, and never met in person. But I don't think that, I mean, to me, it hasn't changed that. I'm starting to understand her better every day. I learn a little bit more, and we feel that connection. So, technology really can enable these things across, but obviously you need to use it correctly. Got to be careful you don't fall into that social media thing where, hey, wait a minute, we don't have to be perfect, and I'm going to give you just what you want to hear type of thing, versus you just want to be authentic.
I've learned how to pronounce her last name already today.
See, learn something new.
After
Check
how
the
many
Wow,
months
box.
now?
Tom, I have a question for you based off of this technology thing as we look at this. As AI is changing the landscape quickly, and we know that it's growing exponentially, getting faster, the pace of change is gonna keep on increasing, and we know that people's ability to deal with change quicker is a challenge for us, right? Change is difficult for people over the long run. And I look at the strains of what it's going to mean on both large businesses and small businesses. The
Mhm.
large businesses, they have lots of people that are going to, that they're going to be able to accomplish lots of things in different ways that might not need. You look at some of these companies that are laying off lots of people. What does that mean for them? And
Yeah.
what does it mean for new companies that are starting up that can do lots with few people? How do you see us playing a part of that?
There's a couple things. A couple years ago, I took a 6 month AI mastery course, and I was stunned not by the bricks and the pieces of that the components of using AI that I was taught. That had very little value because 2 or 3 months in, what they started teaching us in the beginning was obsolete already. That taught me one thing. It's like it's not a thing. AI is not this thing that we have. It's different now than it was 2 months ago,
Yeah.
and it's going to continue to be that way. So it's a moving target. So that makes it very difficult from a strategic, centralized perspective to fold in the dynamics you were just pointing to, Greg. So that's one element. Two other things that I took away from that experience that I think have proven true and continue to. One thing they said was pretty soon, and I don't know if it's happened yet. I'm not aware, but I wouldn't be that surprised if it had. But it's going to be soon that there's going to be $1 billion company with 3 people in it. So when they said that, I'm like, $1 billion company with 3 people. That to me is a stunning kind of a picture. What does that mean? That means that 3 people, through the power of the tools that are emerging in the world, can add an unbelievable amount of value measured in dollars into the world. I mean, a stunning amount. So that means small teams can move mountains. So we're sitting here as the four of us today. What I'm thinking is there's no real limit on what we can do, how many organizations we can help, how many people's lives can get on a much more rewarding track, how many people can feel seen, feel like they belong to something, feel special, feel like they know themselves and they can fully allow other people to know them, all because of this impersonal thing that we call AI. That's something that's huge. The other thing that's super huge that I took away is that they said, now this is 2 years ago, so we're now 2 years into this. They said in 5 years, it's going to be as much social change as the previous century. So that means, so I actually did an episode on the show where it was, because this was in 2023. I said, what was life like in 1923? That 100-year difference. And it was pretty eyebrow raising how different it was. You couldn't take a commercial flight in 1923. There was no commercial air travel. You didn't have television was invented, but nobody had it yet. There was radio, but not everybody even had electricity in their house at that point in time. Running water wasn't everywhere. Uh, um, Appliances weren't everywhere. You had ice boxes. There weren't refrigerators. Again, they were invented, but they weren't really, only very rich people had those. Most people didn't really have cars. Cars were starting to come into the picture at a wider scale, but not every, I mean, it was still considered a luxury to have your own private car kind of a thing. So really radically different, all these things that we take totally for granted today. So in 3 years from now, what are the things that we'll take for granted then that
Wow.
are missing now? And then take that into the world of work. What are the things that are possible with our team that weren't possible just a few short years ago? So this is the landscape that presents exciting opportunity, but also a very daunting challenge because technology is moving way, 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 way faster than our inner development and we do as people to adapt to it. So this is causing a tension that we're going to wrestle with for decades to come, as best I can tell.
Yeah, and one of the other things that I thought of, Tom, while you're talking about the interplay of few people being able to do so much, right? But they're also able to do so much because things are so interconnected. They leverage other companies in so many different ways. It's just so easy to integrate and do. It's allowing us to scale in so many crazy ways, which allows tight people wanting to work together to innovate and become specialized in areas that allow that.
Yeah, I mean, for our growth of our company, I'm looking, I'd like to hire a number of people and have, some things internally, but really I see the fuel of our growth being the partnerships we form, the alliances we have. It's not that we have to make hires, it's that we have to become healthy partners and friends with a wide variety of people all around the world.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, even our clients, I see it in that way. I see it as partnership, and it's kind of maybe hokey, but I think of it as friendship. I think of it as we're helping each other get the things happen that we want to happen. Even our pricing, I want it to be value participation is the model that we're trying to use here, because I think it's the biggest win-win. So rather than charge like consulting firms generally do a large amount of money for all the, because we've been in the workshop for years creating all this value, and in the past, the world needs to pay for that. So consultants are very expensive because you're paying for all that wood shopping experience that didn't just fall out of nowhere. It took blood, sweat, and tears for years to make that happen. And yeah, it doesn't seem like a lot when you have a short engagement, but behind that was a lot. So the value of it's high, and the difference in the world is a big difference. So that's why it's valuable. But what we want to do is go in and say, okay, what matters to you? What's that worth? Okay, we want our turnover to go from 24% down to 12%. Okay, so what's that? What's the value of that dollars wise? Okay, whatever that is, when we hit those marks, give us 10% or 15% or 20% of that. You know, and so you're paying what the value created is, rather than pay us 200 grand and then however it lands with you, that's on you. So, but to do that requires a lot of trust and a lot of interconnectedness that isn't the norm. It takes a mature relationship and a high degree of visibility and interconnectedness that is not something that is the norm yet. I believe that is the direction of the future. All right, well, I know we're coming up close to time here. So, is there anything else that we want to sort of make sure that we get out there? And in order to wrap this up, we're obviously a forward-thinking company. We're a global company with just a few members. There's really only one person that's not on the screen here that's in the picture on a regular basis, Diego. So hi, Diego. Sorry you're not here with us today. It's not that we don't love you and appreciate you. My question is, what are you excited about in the next, let's just say the next months to come? We'll end there. And Giselle, since I think you've gotten the least amount of screen time, I want to hear your answer to that. What do you, in the next few months, let's say, what, if anything, that you can think of excites you the most?
Well, we're working on a lot of changes right now, and I think they're all great. I'm really excited to see how this is going to play out, how people are going to react to it long term. I mean, also short term. I'm really excited to hear the feedback from like the first week, if things got easier for them to follow. I don't know. Yeah, when I was a teacher, for me it was really nice to see, the child coming in for the first day in class, and then how they would leave at the end of the year knowing so much more. So yeah, I think I'm most excited to see that evolvement from the people we work with.
Yeah, that's very well put. When I watch people grow and I watch people understand more about each other, and you can see, just from my own experience, you can see the moment when people's eyes light up and say, "Wait a minute, I didn't know that," and that growth to me, those type of moments for me are very powerful.
Really excited. I mean, as you were saying, Giselle, we've learned a bunch from the products that we have, and we keep on, as we should, keep on evolving and making these better. And I'm just excited start start seeing some of the fruit of that, of this last iteration change. I'm also excited on really just helping people. I'm excited to see how we make an impact on people's lives and companies' lives, and ultimately, the purpose that they serve and the customers that they serve. So I'm really excited about that.
I can't really build too much on that. I think that's the center of the bullseye. It's all really about the experiences of people. And one of the things in being in people's strategy and talking one-on-one with many people over the years about their work and their experience in their workplace. And one of the things that is maybe an eye opener for me anyway is the level of pain and frustration that people have.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
it's way, way, way more than meets the eye. You said earlier, Vivek, about the brochure version, like, with the social media, everybody puts the brave face on, and we don't put in our disappointments with how our coworker treated us or what our boss said to us too much on our social pages for good reason. There are people that complain, but we don't really want to hear people's complaints too much, right? It's like, cry me a river, it's like you're the only one with problems, sort of a thing. But that doesn't really negate the fact that people are in pain and people are suffering and organizations are suffering. There's only really 10% of the organizations out there that are in a state of what we would call thriving. Everybody else is either getting along fairly well with some problems that they think they have to live with and there's nothing much we can do about it, or they're actually really devolving into some sort of state of suffering, which causes all kinds of problems. I've been there. It's disastrous. But I'm saying all that because it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be where people are suffering. I feel like I have to suffer in silence. I feel nobody cares about me. Nobody wants to see me for who I am. I feel like if I show myself, then I'm going to be exposed to something that's bad, and so I have to keep my guard up. These protections become prison walls, and we feel more isolated, and that becomes a spiral, not in a good direction. And so
Mhm.
I look forward to changing that one person at a time, getting the positive spiral. It's always going to be better. You never get to the place where, okay, our work's done here. It's going to be one plate's we got spinning, and guess what? The other plate's starting to fall off. So we got to go pay attention to that. That's what life is. But what we want to do is be friends and allies and give people the chance to keep more plates spinning and more of their life feeling like they matter, that they're seen, they're valued, that life is good, life is worth living, and that they have been given gifts and they get to use their gifts in their life. Guys, I just want to say one last thing, how appreciative I am, how thankful I am to have this team. I had my own consulting company from January of 2011. I had a partnership in the communication gym before that, but my consulting practice was born 2011. I've had some projects and some partnerships along the way here and there, but as far as the people strategy side, it's been just me. And to have this team is just so rewarding and so special. It's a night and day difference. It's something that I can't really put it into words how valuable and thankful and lucky I feel to be in this position. So from the bottom of my heart, want to thank you guys. And, I'm looking forward to the future too. And let's keep rocking it. Thanks everybody for listening. It's been the 200th episode of the Eye of Power podcast, and hopefully we'll have 200 more, and we'll be in a different place there than we are now, and it'll be a whole new story to tell. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah.
This has been the Eye of Power podcast with Tom Dardick. I'd like to thank you for listening. I'd also like to thank my brother, Scott Dardick, for the music and his music production. If you'd like to reach me, simply email Tom at dardickcommunications.com